G'day there guys, it's your Aussie Hubby Markee, back at it again with another r/legal advice video. Now if you love me like I love you, then you know what to do. I want you to mosey on over to that old like button and tackle it like Crocodile Dundee. Maybe even chuck an Aussie flag down in the comments. Now with that said, I want you to sit back, relax, chuck a prawn on the barbie, and forget that Carol Baskin ever killed her husband with a tiger. Now, our first post is by user BFThrowaway137, titled Cross Post from r/relationships. Can I sue my boyfriend for fake rent that he took away from me? From Pennsylvania. I was sent here by r/relationships and put a more detailed post over there. My boyfriend and I moved into a house together a year ago. My boyfriend told me to deposit $1,000 a month for rent into an account for our quote-unquote landlord. Turns out his parents own the house and they haven't been charging either of us rent. Turns out he has been saving this money to give me as a gift later. I've seen a bank statement. He will not give me the money right now because he says I'll take it and leave him. During the last year, my boyfriend has helped me out a couple times financially, and he says he can just keep all the money, although he's probably spent about $1,000 on me, not the full $13,000. I know I probably screwed up by sending the money directly into the account. Is there a way to get that money back legally? Did you sign a lease of any sort? If not, your boyfriend was charging you $1,000 per month in rent. It doesn't matter if he was not being charged rent himself. Shouldn't this post say ex-boyfriend? The lease doesn't say anything about rent. I looked back at it, and it basically says that we won't trash the house or move other people in. His parents didn't know about any of this, as far as I know. It's their house, not my soon-to-be ex-boyfriend's. So there was a lease, and you have it in writing, and it says the apartment is being rented by both of you, rent-free, and you and your boyfriend both signed it. The lease just says nothing about paying rent. His mum is the owner of the house, and I have a message from her that says she wasn't being paid rent and that neither of us was being charged. Whose signatures are on the lease? Both of us signed the same lease agreement. You could send your boyfriend a written letter via registered mail demanding repayment of the rent. If he doesn't pay you, you could sue him. You probably can't do that in a small claims court, so you would need a lawyer. Because of the specifics of this case, and the fact that they are a family, a lawyer may not take the case. It's also quite possible you would lose. You would definitely need the parents to testify in court that they were owed no rent. Honestly, it is probably best to take this as a lesson learned, take your stuff and get out. Oof, that really sucks. And the next comment, Aristotelis. I'm not sure you have much recourse here. Your boyfriend was essentially being allowed to live rent-free in his parents' house. He decided to charge you rent. Absent any written leases, this becomes a he said, she said. They are family and perhaps would respond to a legal threat by uniting against you. Parents can say, we rented to her only, money went to his account, we knew that. Unless you can get the parents to agree that you were allowed to live rent-free and that you were scammed by your boyfriend, you're in a tough position. Do you think the parents would be willing to put in an affidavit, a sworn written statement, or testify to that? I have a message from his mum that says neither of us was paying rent and that she hasn't received any rent money. Okay, keep your cool, ask for the money back. Make up an excuse, XYZ, why you need the money. Oh, thank God, my car engine's seized, and I don't know what I would have done. Once you have it, I would take some time alone to think about if you can forgive him. If he doesn't give it back, explain to his mum what has happened. His mum will probably make him see sense. This is a ridiculous situation. I was close to not reading this comment, but then I saw his name, and Dr. Poo Poo Head says, but are the parents willing to testify? Will they state in court under oath that the agreement was not to charge you rent, and that their son was scamming you out of your money? Unless they're willing to back you up, you probably don't have much to go on. OP didn't reply to that one, but thank you Dr. Poo Poo Head for giving us a comment. And last comment, this is a crime, probably a third-degree felony in your state. There are likely multiple crimes here. Your boyfriend created the impression in your head that he and you owed rent. This was a false impression. He purposefully failed to correct the impression each month for 13 months. Questions. Were you ever late on paying rent? And if so, did your boyfriend ever remind you to pay? Who owns the bank account / what names are on the bank account and how is it styled? Did you ever question the rent payments or otherwise cause your boyfriend to directly confirm that rent is due? Even something as passive as you saying, "I have the rent deposit," and him saying "okay," or simply nodding is very relevant information. Did he tell you the rent was going to be a gift for you after you discovered that there was in fact no rent ever due and payable? I'm willing to bet that the answer to the last question is a resounding yes. The only reason your boyfriend said it was going to be a gift because you discovered his fraud. This is where it could get irrelevantly complicated. You said that you saw a statement and that he spent about $1,000 on you, but you don't know how much of the full $13,000 is remaining in the account, or how much total your boyfriend has spent on you. Even spending just $1,000 on you is offensive. Your boyfriend was essentially defrauding you to finance gifts. The reality is he didn't spend $1,000 on you, you spent $1,000 on you. So, yeah. The amount of money he may have spent, or even if he really intended to surprise you with a gift of significant value in the future, is completely irrelevant to the crimes that he has committed. Back to relevant matters. If he is willing to defraud you in this manner, he will likely not think twice about lying, cheating, or stealing from you in the future. You are not his girlfriend, you are his crime victim. Giving back all the money is not sufficient. In his lying mind, he was going to give it back anyway, so having to give it back now represents zero consequence. Even if you get the money back and leave him, there is still zero consequence to him because my ex-girlfriend left me because she got all weird about money and was greedy. Go to the police. He will victimize someone else unless you do something. Please don't take this to mean that it would be your fault when he lies and steals in the future, because those are most definitely his choices. This is a very unfortunate situation for you. I know you probably have a host of emotions and thoughts that you're dealing with. I hope you find the strength to do what's best. Good luck. Opie didn't reply, but I really liked that comment, so I wanted to read it. Probably some of the best legal advice I've read. It's like r/relationship and legal advice all in one. It's a sick comment. Okay, and now our update. I figured this merited an update. I told my ex-boyfriend I was moving out with or without the money, and he told me that if I left him, he could keep the gift for himself. I told him whatever, and called his mother and told her I was leaving. She asked why, and I told her the whole story. She asked me to give her a few minutes, and then she would get back to me. I heard her ex call my ex in the other room, and could hear her yelling at him through the phone. She called me back and told me to take pictures of the rooms. I sent them to her, and she gave me the all clear over text. She also sent me an apology for my ex's behavior. I left and thought that was that. A few days later, I get a check in the mail for $15,000 from my ex's mum. Not exactly justice, because the original money was indeed probably gone, but I walked away feeling pretty good about the whole thing. I feel like that is the best recourse that we can get in this story. That is an amazing thing for the mother to do. And I know that my mum would do it if I ever did that to someone, God forbid. And I would definitely do that for my kids. That's a scummy thing to do to someone, Jesus Christ. Heads up for you guys that are going to get mad, this one doesn't have an update in this next story, but it's a very good story, and it's got a lot of good legal advice in the comments. I understand why OP didn't comment further than this post. Anyway, posted by user DRF Supercenter. In Chicago, I was robbed by my Airbnb host, looking for legal advice. This all took place over the past weekend, Friday/Saturday, June 14th to 15th, it was 10 months ago at this point, in Chicago. I already filed a police report, as well as brought this to the attention of Airbnb, both over the phone and on Twitter. Unlike my post about this incident elsewhere, I'll be as thorough in explaining the situation here as to get the most relevant advice possible. I apologize in advance for the essay, but please read all of it if you want to give advice, to make sure that you get the whole story. So, I was in Chicago for the weekend for Pokemon Go Fest. For those unfamiliar, it's an all-day paid event hosted at a park. This year, it was at Grant Park. My ticket date was for the Friday the 14th. Earlier that week, Monday I think, I went on Airbnb to look for an affordable options. By this point, all the hotels in the area were closed to $300 a night, and most Airbnbs within a mile or two of Grant Park were either already booked or also that expensive. I found what looked to be a good deal south of downtown for around $85 a night. The host had mostly positive reviews, with the only negative review saying that he felt the price was too high for a single bed. Fine, nothing to really be concerned about there. People said that the host was nice, that he made them breakfast, really no reason to think there was anything fishy going on. I requested Thursday through Sunday, check out on Sunday through Airbnb, and the host accepted my request later that day. I put in the comments, where it says to tell the host about yourself, and they encourage you to share why you were traveling, that I was in town for Pokemon Go Fest and would be gone most of the day and just needed a place to sleep at night. Arrived in Chicago, went to meet my host Thursday evening. The Uber driver warned me that it wasn't the best place for an Airbnb, and that it was one of the unsafer neighborhoods in Chicago. Well, okay, nice to know, but I really didn't have any options at this point. Messaged the host that I was there, he came out to meet and show me up to the room. I took all of my belongings with me. I had a laptop worth about $2,000, a suitcase with my Nintendo Switch, among other things, phone chargers, clothes, medication, and said I would be back later, that I wanted to get some dinner. I asked him if there was a key for the place that he could give me, as that's usually what Airbnb hosts have done at past trips I've taken, even if it is just for a single room and not the entire place. He said he doesn't have a spare key, but to just message him when I need to be let in and he'll come to the door. Again, he seemed friendly, so I didn't think anything of it, and I said I would be back later. I got back, messaged him to let me in, and he came to open the door. I went to bed, didn't talk to the guy at all. He had the TV on all night, or at least until I fell asleep. I was lying in bed at 1:30 a.m. hearing his TV. Next morning, Friday, I got up, showered, took my medication and left. After all, that was the day of Go Fest, where I would be busy in the park from 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. The host knew this. I told him in my initial request to book that I would be gone all day. So here I am in Grant Park at about 9:30 a.m., just after getting started with my day, when I get a message from Airbnb support. They told me your host is no longer able to accommodate you. Let me know when I can call and discuss this with you. Already pretty pissed off at this point as I was trying to enjoy my day, but I told them to go ahead and call whenever. I got a call from a resolution manager maybe 15 minutes after I sent that message, and the lady explained that for whatever reason, the host was no longer able to host me, and that as compensation, they would give me a $200 voucher and give me links to other listings in the area. Great, I said, but what about all of my stuff? I'm busy all day. I can't just go get my suitcase and laptop, having nowhere to take this stuff, nor can I check into an Airbnb at 9:30 in the morning. The lady said she'd check and call me back. She called back another 10 to 15 minutes later and said, I talked to your host, and he said he would be there all day so you can get your things when it's convenient. I said great, then I won't leave the park and just go get my things after 7 p.m. when the event is done. I asked the lady if he gave a reason for cancelling my trip. At this time, I was too preoccupied to even ask if he had a right to do this. I just went along with it. And she said that he said something about not liking the communication, whatever that means. Okay. Fast forward to 12:30 p.m. Host messages me through Airbnb. Note that the entire weekend I hadn't ever talked to the host outside of Airbnb. I had his number and he had mine. But I didn't receive any text messages from him or any calls, and I didn't message/call him either. Given that the whole I don't have a key for you was already sketchy enough, I wanted all of my communications with him to be logged through Airbnb so their staff could see it in case of incidents, saying your checkout time was noon and you didn't come to get your stuff. I'm gonna put it under the stairs. I wrote back saying that Airbnb support told me that you would be home all day. What are you talking about? My checkout time was noon on Sunday, not in the middle of the day Friday. If he wanted to cut my trip short, that was on him, but he's not going to inconvenience me like this. Okay, I didn't say all of that to him, just the first part about what support told me. He wrote back saying, I don't know what you two talked about, but I will definitely not be home all day. I suggest you come get your stuff. Well, considering that the front door to the building locks, I figured my stuff was safe under the stairs. Only tenants of that building would be getting in anyway, and if he wasn't home later, I could probably ask one of the tenants to open the door for me. So around 6 PM when I had a bit of a break, I looked for another Airbnb. Found something much closer that cost me more money since they were giving me a $200 voucher after all. I tried to book one, but the voucher wasn't working. I called them and they say they'd look into it, and I basically said, look, I'm running out of time, just give me $200 back to my credit card and I'll get a hotel. I'm done dealing with you guys. They agreed under the condition I gave them the hotel receipt, so I booked a hotel. Fast forward to Friday night at around 8:30 PM. Finished GoFest, ate dinner, got an Uber back to the place. I actually told the Uber driver I was going to get my stuff and then needed a ride to the hotel. He said he can just add a destination to our trip, and agreed to wait while I got my stuff. The front door to the complex was locked, but the night before it had just opened after I jiggled the knob a few times. I'm standing there trying to jiggle the knob and trying to push the door in when some lady gets out of her car with a young child. She sees the Uber driver parked there and watching me, asks him what's going on. He explains to her that he's waiting on me, etc., etc. This lady's naturally a bit spooked, as she sees some strange guy trying to, what looks like, break into her apartment building with someone else in a car waiting for them. Definitely seems sketchy from her perspective. I explain the situation to her, and she's shocked that anyone would rent an Airbnb in that building, but she agrees to open the door for me. I get in, look under the stairs, and my luggage isn't there. Wanting answers immediately, I attempt to actually call my former host. He doesn't answer. She said she'd try to call as she lives across from him. I gave her the number, she calls, gets his voicemail, leaves a message. Oh, and meanwhile the Uber driver alerted me that someone else was added to his queue, so he has to leave. I say thanks for the ride and that I'll book another when I'm ready. Now I'm by myself. While we're waiting for a call back up, I walk up to her apartment, which is directly across from his, as she handed me a couple gallons of milk to carry for her while she unlocked the door for me. I set the milk down in her apartment, and just for the hell of it, I opened the Tile app on my phone. Before I continue my story, let me explain real quick what Tile is and what it does. Tile is a small tracking device that you can attach to objects that you think might misplace, in my case, my car keys and wallet. I have one in my wallet and one in my keyring. If your phone is within Bluetooth range of these devices, you can make them play music to help you find the device. If you ever lose it, the app will tell you where it's last seen. So anyway, much to my surprise, the Tile app tells me that my keyring is in range right now. Literally as I'm standing outside the guy's apartment that I can't get into. My car keys, which were in my luggage, are within 100 feet of my phone. The guy calls her back and says, look, I told the guest this too. I put his stuff under the stairs. If it's gone, then someone probably stole it, and it's his fault for not coming to get it when I told him to. She relays the message to me, but I say no, that's not true. The stuff is here right now. And I show her my phone. She tells him this, and I hear loud yelling over the phone. He starts cussing her out, saying it's none of her bloody business, and hangs up. Okay now, I'm starting to get the picture. He probably saw this as a great opportunity. I said in my notes that I would be gone all day for an event. He sees that I have valuable items. What a great idea. He can end my stay early, know I can't get my stuff because I'm gone at an event, claim he put it out for me, and oh, it's gone. Someone must have stolen it. Meanwhile, he pockets all this valuable loot that he can do whatever with. Except, he wasn't planning on me being able to prove that my belongings were in his apartment that night when he wasn't home. As soon as she tells him this, he flips out, realizing I'm onto him. The lady calls the landlord comes out. I explain this all to him. He advises me to file a police report, says that even though he has the key and can let me into his apartment, he doesn't have the legal right to do so, and that the tenant, my Airbnb host, could try to sue him for illegal entry. The landlord also puts a notice on the guy's door saying he's going to evict him, that it's totally against the lease to let guests stay there. He was appalled that the place was even listed on an Airbnb. We called the police, waited about a half an hour for them to show up, making small talk in the meantime. He told me he was going to evict the guy soon anyway because of how shady he is, and that this whole Airbnb thing suddenly makes sense. because the guy was always late paying the rent and kept coming up short, but that mysteriously a couple months later he was able to pay it, after the landlord threatened to evict. I keep telling the guy, look, that's all well and dandy, but I just want my stuff back. I do understand where he's coming from, and that's why I was glad to just wait for the police. If the police can write up a warrant and let me in, then great. But after about half an hour of waiting, he said, let's just go down to the station, so he drives me there. I run this by them, and the cops basically say they can't issue a warrant off of that alone, and that I have to attempt to get my stuff back directly from the person first. Then I can file a report. If he doesn't comply, then they can do something. So the landlord tells me, the guy's usually home Saturday mornings. Call him, call the police, they'll go up together and see what they can do. So, I'm staying completely empty-handed at a hotel Friday night, hoping I can resolve this matter in the morning. Saturday morning comes. I do exactly as instructed. Call landlord, call police escort comes out, landlord comes out a bit later. I call the host, who of course does not answer. So, landlord gets his spare key and we start walking up to the place. Me, landlord, and an officer. Knock on the door, no reply. Police knocks and says that they're the cops, here with the landlord and guest. The man opens the door ajar, leaving it chained so they couldn't force entry, starts filming and making this whole spiel about illegal entry and how they're infringing his rights. He says to me, I messaged you lots of times and you ignored me. I say, no you didn't, I don't have a single text from you. Only the one from Airbnb, and he says that's bullcrap and you know it. I say fine, show me your phone and where you sent the texts. And of course he refuses because that's not true at all. The cop basically says, look, at this point you tried, but you'll have to file a report for stolen belongings. We can't break into this guy's place. Meanwhile, I'm checking my phone while standing in front of his apartment like the night before, and the tile shows it's no longer there. Says it was last seen 10:30 PM Friday night when we left to wait on the cops. So the guy moved my stuff elsewhere after realizing we were onto him. Also, he took the notice off of his door. The landlord gave me all the information I needed to file my police reports and asked if he could see the Airbnb listing just to see what I even agreed to with this guy. Would it shock anyone at this point that I learned that he used a fake name on Airbnb? The name I had for him wasn't even his real name. Huge surprise! So anyway, I give the officer all this information, they write up the report. I give them the itemized list of what was stolen, they estimated it at around $3,000. I actually forgot to tell them about my switch at this point. Give them a victim notice and say an investigator will follow up with me in a week or so. Well, great. I won't even be there in a week, and you can easily sell my stuff before any of those serials I gave the cops get registered anywhere. I called Airbnb about this. I said first of all, I didn't think hosts could just cancel a stay like that and kick a guest out. They said they can't, and that the guy on the phone said, your stay wasn't cancelled at all. It shows a confirmed reservation from June 13th to 14th, with you checking out on the 14th at noon. I said no, that's not it. Look at my original confirmation. He checks and says, oh, huh, I see that now. Digs into it, and apparently some supervisor overrode something that should not have been overridden, as it shows in the Airbnb app that I consented to the altered stay. I did not, and was simply told. I don't know what lies he told the Airbnb support people, but they somehow got their managers to override this and alter my trip to say I was checking out on the 14th instead of the 16th. So at this point I'm considering my goods lost, and I called Airbnb again and asked if there was any way that they can take the money from the guy. After all, if they deposit money into his account when people book stays with him, they can take it out too, to reimburse me the $3,000 he stole from me. They said, you can do that, but you have to fill out a request, and they sent me a link. The link only lets me request $87 back. One night stay, the other two were auto-refunded when the trip was altered. I explained this to them, and they said, just request the $87 back, the guy's not going to do it anyway. Then after 72 hours, you can escalate it to our claims division and they can go from there. Needless to say, I'm less than pleased with Airbnb's support by now. I've talked to several different case resolution managers who all just kept giving me links to the things within the app, and none of them assuring me they will ban the guy from Airbnb for being a fraud and stealing from his guests. I sent the guy a message through Airbnb saying, FYI, I gave the police all the serial numbers of what you stole, and I have GPS tracking on my items should you try to sell them. The second part isn't entirely true, since Tile requires a phone to be within range of it to actually get the location. Since Friday night, it hasn't been picked up by any phones, but he's not going to know that. I said I'd be willing to drop the police report and Airbnb claim I filed against him if he returns my stuff. Again, not true, I'm absolutely still keeping that police report open. No reply, of course, so I text him the same message, still no reply. Sunday morning I figure what the heck, I'll try one last time. I said something along the lines of, if you don't return my belongings, I will sue you for at least $3,000, which is the value of the items you stole from me. Short and sweet. He messaged back, I filed a police report against you for phone harassment. Don't contact me again. I called the non-emergency police number and explained this all to them. The lady said his supposed police report was completely bogus, and that sending 2 messages asking for my stolen items back is absolutely not harassment, that it wouldn't hold up in court at all, but either way, it's clear he's not going to return my stuff. I'm now back in Michigan without any of my belongings. The guy's probably going to try to sell my stuff. He's also probably being evicted from his apartment, but that doesn't help me in the slightest. Airbnb is still working on the case and will contact you as soon as we can, and I'm not expecting to hear anything from the police investigator for a week. The lady at the police did say that I can hire a lawyer in Michigan to sue the man in Chicago and not to actually have to travel back to Chicago myself, though I'm not sure I'd trust that. I want to testify against the guy myself. However, I'd also never taken anyone to court before. Only times I've ever been to court were for jury duty and contest traffic tickets, hence why I'm asking for advice. What can I really do at this point? I've googled the subject and most people are saying Airbnb just tells people to sue in incidents like this. They aren't a hotel and their insurance is to protect hosts from unruly guests, and not vice versa. So I'm really not thinking they'll do anything either, and the guy's listings are still up as well. Half tempted to hire someone else to book the place and go looking for my stuff, lol. But seriously, what should I do? Just sit and wait? Hire a lawyer? Any advice is really appreciated. A friend suggested I should sue for more than just what my stuff is worth because of emotional trauma from the ordeal. I believe the limit for small claims court is $5,000, so I'm considering asking for the max. Now, the unfortunate thing is OP didn't reply to anyone about this, and they made a post 3 months after this asking for how to replace their laptop. So the sad thing about this entire story is, I think they just accepted defeat, and it looks like they didn't even pursue legal options, which is really sad. He doesn't look like he got his items back, which is disgusting. I'm gonna read a few comments, and then we're gonna finish the video out with that. In addition to suing him in small claims court, which you should absolutely do, if you have homeowners or renters insurance, they should pay for this stuff. I was robbed during a trip to Kenya and I got the full value back from my renter's insurance. I had just bought quite a bit of the stuff and had receipts, so I was lucky there. But I'd bet you have some sort of receipt for your computer and Switch in your emails, if nothing else. They will jerk you around on non-receipt stuff, but do your best. At least you can get some of it back. Always Sleepy 1945 says, do you have renters or homeowners insurance? I'm not sure, but it's possible they may cover this. You can take him to small claims court, but keep in mind that you can't get blood from a stone, and it doesn't seem likely you'll ever get a penny from this guy. Take this as a very, very expensive lesson. You made numerous mistakes, none justify or excuse what he did to you, but learning from them may help to avoid this situation in the future. Research the area where you are staying. Do not trust that, if only residents have a key, your stuff is safe. In fact, if there is any conflict or issue with the host, never trust that things are fine, and immediately go retrieve your stuff unless the value of your stuff is less than the value of the event that is getting cut short. You shouldn't have told him about the GPS tracking, and should have told the cops when they arrived. You should have waited for the cops and not left, because of course he moved it right away, and probably a lot more things you could have done better here. Again, doesn't excuse what he did, but it could have potentially been avoided. Absolutely, I agree with that. He shouldn't have just left it on that night. That's the most egregious thing here. Just keep pushing the cops. You know, I'm talking to a supervisor. I want to speak to your manager. I'm Karen now. I want to go higher up the chain. Get someone here now. My stuff is in there. Get this door down. I don't care what it takes. Camp outside his front door. Get Uber Eats to sustain yourself. Camp in that lady's door until he opens it. Fucking bust your ass into that apartment. You get your stuff back. Don't get shot in the meantime. That's the big lesson here. Anyway, guys, that's where I'm going to end this one today. Tell me what you guys would do in this situation. Huge post, I know, but look, that's why I wanted to read it. It was such a good story. And he unfortunately didn't win in the end, and there's no updates, and it's depressing. Hope you guys have a good day, night, sleep, whatever you're up to. This has been Markee. I'll see you in the next episode. Bye.